Hi, I'm Brandon from Aputure, and I run the product department.
Excellent. And what are we standing in front of now?
In front of me is the Storm XT52. This is the brightest LED point source that is in our product line. It's also the brightest LED point source that is on the market to date. It's a 5200 watt lamp head with a full BLAIR engine inside of it. And that BLAIR is just because it's part of our Storm product lineup. Earlier last year, we updated our Lightstorm lineup to the new Storm lineup. So everything inside Storm is a BLAIR or BLAIR CG color engine. Now what BLAIR is, instead of trying to confuse you, is basically blue, lime, amber, indigo, and red. All of these colors mixed together to create an exceptional tunable white light color source. So this is going to give you exceptionally wide color temperature range of 2500 Kelvin all the way to 10,000 Kelvin, and it's also going to give you full plus and minus green. Now what does full plus and minus green mean? That means actually matching that of full plus minus green gel. So 100% is the same as adding a full plus green gel. Minus 100% is the same as adding a full minus a green gel. And then 50% is the same as adding a half plus green gel. So you're actually going across using the same standard as gels. So you have a reference point, and that's because we're using the same ASC MITC standard that is standardized by the American Society of Cinematographers. Now, in addition to that, BLAIR also has another trick up its sleeve, which is the Indigo, the eye. The Indigo actually allows us to mimic some of the fluorescent effects of natural UV rays from sunlight. So sunlight has UV rays, which activates a lot of the fluorescent materials that is within our clothing, within our skin tones, and our teeth, etc. So it makes everything look a little bit cleaner, a little bit brighter. So the Indigo actually helps with that by having a near UV spectrum, though it's not fully UV, and it helps you activate some of those fluorescents, which makes objects appear cleaner, brighter, and more true to life. So that's a lot of what BLAIR allows us to do. Now, BLAIR also gives us one other function, which is the ability to have color. Because like I mentioned, BLAIR is comprised of blue, lime, amber, indigo, and red. So the blue, lime, and red inside the XY gamut you can see here actually allows us to have a limited color gamut, adding some blue, adding some red, adding some lime. So I can actually add some orange and red right into my scene right here. So despite this being a tunable white light fixture predominantly, we are actually able to inject some color into the scene to give you a lot more versatility out of your white light fixture. Now, we've already introduced this function in our other BLAIR light, the Storm 1200X, and based on a lot of feedback, they said it's great that the BLAIR light engine has a limited color gamut. It's great that you're giving me this functionality, but I really would want it to be a little bit more accessible and a little bit more convenient. So we said, okay, we're going to introduce our limited HSIC plus functionality, just like we have in our color lights, except with a more limited color gamut. So you can actually adjust your hue angle. So you can get magentas, you can get reds, you can get oranges, you can get lime, you can get cyans, you can get blues, you can get a bunch of different colors within the BLAIR color gamut. And the BLAIR is different from BLAIR CG in that a BLAIR CG fixture like our 1000C or 80C is going to be able to access this entire color gamut and give you 90%, over 90% of Rec 2020. Now, going back to BLAIR, this BLAIR light engine is not only super capable in terms of being able to reproduce daylight, it's also super capable in terms of being able to replace daylight, and that's because it has so much power. This 5200 watt lamp head draws about 5,600 to 6,000 watts and is able to replace and overpower 6K HMIs and even be within shooting distance of M90s or 9K HMIs. So that's going to be about 20 to 30% away depending on the reflector angle. So we're going to get a lot of punch out of this fixture. It's IP65, which means that in a lot of scenarios, you're either going to be able to overpower sunlight or replace it. You're going to get the same color quality as sunlight and ultimately allow you to replace a lot of these HMIs, which tend to shift green or magenta over time. Whereas with this BLAIR engine, you have full control of your green and magenta. So we're doing all of this in a body, in a lightweight chassis that's actually 3/4 of the weight of a typical M90. So a typical M90 is about 40 kilograms, about 88 pounds. So if I were to take this guy, this XT52 here is actually about 31.3 kilograms, so it's about 3/4 of the weight of an M90. So it's something that is still manageable by a single individual. So I can poke this out of the light stand, I can put it back in, no problem. That's something that I would not really be able to do very comfortably with a 40 kilogram and 88 pound M90. So that, the smaller lamp head, as well as the condensed control box. We have our briefcase style control box right here. It's super slim, lightweight, and stackable, and it only weighs about 13.4 kilograms, about like 28 pounds. So you're going to get a significant amount of functionality in a small chassis, and because it is lightweight, it makes it great for putting in condors, putting in cranes, putting in cherry pickers. And when you do that, you're going to want to extend the lamp head away from the control box so you can leave the control box on the ground, do all your troubleshooting, do all your power, do all your DMX from there. So we can actually extend our 7.5 meter control head cable to 45 meters. So that's 148 feet. So you're actually able to get this guy really high in the sky, whether you have a condor, a cherry picker, or some other type of contraption. You're going to be able to mount this super high and away from anything you might need. So this is the Storm XT52. You're getting a lot of functionality of this guy, getting a lot of power. You're getting all the capabilities of the BLAIR engine in an IP65, really professionally built product. So this is what we have as the top of the line product in the Aputure ecosystem.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure. Storm XT52. You guys are actually being sustainable, so you don't need green gels anymore. Saving plastic. There you go. You can just do the green gels by the
100%. In fact, and that's actually one of the things that a lot of gaffers have asked about, which is with a typical HMI, a lot of times gaffers will actually warm up the HMI a little bit by adding color temperature orange or color temperature straw gels. This is actually a problem because on these big sets where they're burning them for 7 days a week, 5 days a week, they can actually burn through 2 different gels, just have the colors fade over the course of a few days, which means that they're constantly having to replace these gels, which means that they're using 10 different lights. They're having to replace multiple gel rolls every single week or every couple of weeks. And with this, you can actually just adjust the color, you can adjust the color temperature, dial it in so that you get the exact color you want without having to replace these gels. So it actually removes necessity for a lot of expendables purchases.
Thank you so much, Brandon Lee. It's a pleasure.
Of course, no problem.